conclusion that one useless man is called a disgrace, that two are called a lawful, and that three or more become a Congress. And by God, I've had this Congress. For 10 years, King George and his parliament of gold colled and diddled these colonies with their illegal taxes, Stamp Acts, Townsend Act, Sugar Acts, Tea Acts. And when we dared stand up like men, they stopped our trade, seized our ships, blockaded our ports, burned our towns, and spilled our blood. And still, this Congress won't grant any of my proposals on independence, not even so much as the courtesy of open debates. Good God, what in the hell are they waiting for?
Sit down, John. Sit down, John. For God's sake, John, sit down. Sit down, John. Sit down, John. For God's sake, John, sit down. Will someone open up a window? It's 90 degrees. Have mercy, John, please. It's hot as hell in Philadelphia.
It seems the animal was employed transporting luggage in service of the Congress.
The question then would appear to be one of occasion, for if the mule expired, not while carrying, but after being unloaded, then surely the beast dropped dead at its own time.
Good God. They sit here for years and years in Philadelphia. These indecisive grenadiers of Philadelphia. They can't agree on what is right or wrong, or what is good or bad. Believe the only purpose this Congress ever had is to gather here specifically to drive John Adams mad. You see, we
there. Independency. Then sign your name, get out of there, and hurry home to me. Our children all have dysentery. Little Tom keeps turning blue. Little Larry has the measles, and I'm coming down with flu. They say we might get smallpox.
Madam, what else is new? Abigail, in my last letter I told you how King George has collected 12,000 German mercenaries to send against us. I asked you to gather the ladies to make saltpeter for gunpowder. Have you done as I asked?
No, John, I have not.
Why have you not?
Because you neglected to tell us how saltpeter is made.
By treating sodium nitrate with potassium chloride, of course.
Oh yes, of course.
Will it be done then?
I'm afraid we have a more urgent problem, John.
More urgent, madam?
There's something every road list in Massachusetts Bay. Smirk at me, you egotist pay. Heed to what I say. We've gone from Framingham to Boston. We cannot find a pin. Don't you know there's a war on to the tradesmen with a grin? We will not make saltpeter until you find us
Pins, madam. Saltpeter.
pins.
Saltpeter.
Pins.
Saltpeter.
Pins.
Peter.
Pins.
Peter.
Pins.
Done, madam, done.
Done, John. Hurry home, John.
As soon as I'm able.
Don't stop writing. It's all I have.
Every day, my dearest friend.
For God's sake, John, sit down.
Franklin, you heard what I suffered in there.
Heard? Of course I heard. Along with the rest of Philadelphia. Lord, your voice is piercing, John.
I wish to heaven my arguments were. By God, Franklin, when will they make up their minds? With one hand, they can raise an army, dispatch one of their own to lead it, and cheer the news from Bunker Hill, while with the other, they wave the olive branch, begging the king for a happy and permanent reconciliation. Why, damn it, Fat George has declared us in rebellion. When the bloody hell will they?
John, really, you talk as if independence is a rule. It's never been done before. No other colony has separated from its parent stem in the history of the world.
Damn it, Franklin, you make us sound treasonous.
Do I? Treason. Treason is a charge invented by the winners as an excuse for hanging the losers.
I have more to do than stand here listening to you quote yourself.
No, that one was a new one.
Damn it, Franklin, we're at war.
To defend ourselves, nothing more. We expressed our displeasure, the English moved against us, and we in turn have resisted. Now our fellow congressmen want to effect a reconciliation before it becomes a war.
Reconciliation, my ass. The people want independence.
People have read Mr. Paine's Common Sense. I doubt the Congress has. John, why don't you just give it up? Nobody listens to you. You're obnoxious and disliked.
I'm not promoting John Adams. I'm promoting independence.
Evidently, they can't help but connect the two.
What are you suggesting?
Just let somebody else in Congress propose.
Never. Why, who did you have in mind?
I don't know. I really haven't given it much thought.
You sent for me, Benjamin?
Never.
Hello, Johnny.
Richard, John and I need some advice.
If it's money of yours, you know that.
Thank you, Richard. Now, as we know, the cause that we support has come to a complete standstill. Why do you suppose that is?
Simple. Johnny here is obnoxious and disliked.
Yes, that's true. What's the solution, I wonder?
Get someone else in Congress to propose.
Richard, that's brilliant. Isn't that brilliant, John?
Brilliant.
Yes, now the question remains, who can it be? The man we need must belong to a delegation publicly committed to independence, and so far, only Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Delaware have declared our way.
And Virginia, Benji. Don't forget Virginia.
Oh, I haven't, Richard. How could I? But strictly speaking, while Virginia's views on independence are well known, your legislator in Williamsburg has never formally authorized his delegation in Congress to support the cause. Of course, if we could think of a Virginian with enough influence to...
Why damn me if I haven't thought of somebody?
Who?
Me!
Why didn't I think of that?
Why, I'll go off tonight. Why, hell, right now if you'd like. I'd stop straight off at Stratford to refresh misses and then straight to the matter. Virginia, the land that gave us our glorious commander-in-chief. George Washington will now give the continent its proposal on independence, and where Virginia goes, the South is bound to follow, and where the South goes, the middle colonies go. A salute to Virginia, the mother of American independence!
Incredible, we're free and he hasn't even left yet. What makes you so sure you can do it?
My name is Richard Henry Lee, Virginia is my home. My name is Richard Henry Lee, Virginia is my home. And make my horses turn to glue if I can't live up to your resolution on independency. For the FFB, the first family in the summer colony of Virginia. That is the FFB, the first family in the summer colony in America. And may the British burn my land if I can't learn to hand a resolution on independency. It's here, Lee, there, Lee, everywhere, Lee,
Social,
Lee,
political,
Lee,
natural,
Lee,
financial,
Lee,
internal,
Lee,
external,
Lee,
paternal,
Lee,
eternal,
Lee,
the FFB.
the first family in the summer colony of Virginia. And may my wife refuse my bed if I can't live as I said a resolution on independency.
Broken money. God help us.
He will, John, he will.
They say that God in heaven is everybody's God.
Amen.
I admit that God in heaven is everybody's God. But I tell you, John, with pride, God leaves a little on the side to the leaves of old Virginia. You see, it's here, Lee, there, Lee, everywhere, Lee, here, Lee, there, Lee, everywhere, Lee. Look out, it's Arthur Lee, and Bobby Lee, and General Edwards, Harry Lee, and Richie Lee, and Lily Lee, and
Richard H.
that's me. May my blood stop running blue if I can't live up to you a resolution on independency. You see, it's here, Lee, there, Lee. Come on, boys, join in with me. Here, Lee, there, Lee.
When do you leave?
Immediately, here, Lee, there, Lee.
And when do you return?
Shortly, here, Lee, there, Lee. And I'll return triumphantly. Here, Lee, there, Lee. Onward,
That was the most revolting display I've ever witnessed.
Oh, cheer up, John. Look at it this way. Our cause is again riding high. Straight in the saddle and in full gallop for Virginia.
A new delegate from Georgia arrives in the Congressional chamber and is greeted by McNair, the Congressional custodian. McNair introduces him to the entering delegates, each of whom asks about Georgia's stand on independence. Hall is for it, but his constituents are not. He's unsure whether his job is to vote their opinion or his conscience. Adams is anxiously awaiting Lee's return. Hancock gathers the 380th meeting of the Congress to order. When Thompson notes that all members are present except for the New Jersey delegation and Lee, Hancock asks Franklin if he knows the reason for their absence. Franklin, whose son is the royal governor of New Jersey, informs the Congress that he and his son have stopped communicating due to their differences over independence. Hancock then asks Thomas Jefferson for the weather report. Jefferson gives it and announces his intention to go home to see his wife that night. When Lee returns from Virginia with a proposal for independence, the Congress is once again thrown into a roiling debate. Some members, led by John Dickinson, oppose independence and favor simply petitioning George III with their grievances. Adams and Franklin lead the charge toward independence, arguing that it has been a full year since the bloody battles of Lexington and Concord, and therefore too late to reconcile with England. Finally, after much argument, the proposal for independence is put up for vote, with Dickinson's stipulation that the vote must be unanimous. At this point, Adams and Franklin suggest that a declaration be written prior to the vote, which clearly details their goals. This also serves the purpose of delaying the decision while they attempt to gain more votes in favor of their cause. Adams, knowing that he has few supporters in Congress, suggests that someone else write the declaration. As the argument between Dickinson and Adams grows more heated, Caesar Rodney of Delaware, who suffers from cancer, collapses. Colonel McKean takes him back home. Seeing that the vote majority will go his way, Edward Rutledge of South Carolina moves to vote on independence. The New Jersey delegation arrives, led by Reverend John Witherspoon, who announces that they have been authorized to vote for independence.
Come now, Mr. Adams. You'll have to do better than that. Answer me straight. What would be its purpose?
Yes, well, there's...
To place before mankind the common sense of the subject in terms so plain and firm as to command their assent.
Mr. Jefferson, are you seriously suggesting that we publish a paper declaring to all the world that an illegal rebellion is in reality a legal one?
Mr. Dickinson, I'm surprised at you. You should know that a rebellion is always legal in the first person, such as our rebellion. It is only in the third person, such as their rebellion, that it is illegal. Mr. President, I second the motion to postpone the vote on independence for a period of time sufficient for the writing of a declaration.
It has been moved and seconded. Mr. Secretary.
So all those in favor of the motion to postpone signify by saying yea.
Yay. Yay.
Yay. All those against?
New York abstains. Courteously.
Mr. Morris, what in the hell goes on in New York?
Mr. President, have you ever been to the New York legislature? They speak very, very fast, very, very loud, but no one says anything, and certainly no one listens. And therefore, nothing ever gets done. I beg the Congress's pardon.
My sympathies, Mr. Morris. Vote again being tied. The chair rules in favor of the postponement. So ruled. A committee will be formed to manage the declaration. Written, debated, and approved by the beginning of July. 3 weeks hence in which Virginia's resolution on independence will finally be voted. Is that clear?
Yes, Mr. President.
Very well. Will the following gentlemen please serve on the declaration committee? Dr. Franklin, Mr. John Adams, Mr. Sherman, Mr. Livingston, and of course, Mr. Lee.
Excuse me, but I must be returned into the sovereign country of Virginia to serve as governor. Therefore, I must decline respectfully.
Very well, Mr. Lee, you're excused. I suppose we'll leave it a four-man committee.
Just a moment, Mr. President. This business needs a Virginian. Therefore, I propose a replacement, Mr. Thomas Jefferson.
No, Mr. Adams, no.
Very well, Mr. Adams. Mr. Jefferson will serve.
No, I'm going home too to see my wife.
Move to adjourn.
No, wait.
Second.
I have not been back these 6 months.
It's been moved and seconded. Any objections?
Yes, I have objections. Lots of objections.
So ruled. Congress stands adjourned.
Pennsylvania. I believe that politics on paper is a mania, so I refuse to use the pen in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania.
Mr. Sherman, I say you should write it. You were never controversial, as it were. That is true. Or as if I'm the one to do it. They'll run their pulpits through it. Obnoxious and disliked. You know that, sir?
Yes, I do.
Then I say you should write it, Roger. Yes, you.
Good heavens, no.
Yes, you, Roger Sherman.
Mr. Adams, I cannot write with any style of proper etiquette. I don't know what proposition you're referring. I am just a simple copper from Connecticut.
Mr. Livingston, I say you should write it. You have many friends who are diplomats.
Oh, that word.
Whereas if I'm the one to do it, they'll run their pulpits through it.
He's obnoxious and disliked. Did you know that?
I hadn't heard.
Then I say you should write it, Robert. Yes, you.
Not me, Johnny.
Yes, you, Robert Livingston. You.
Mr. Adams, dear Mr. Adams, I've been presented with a new son by the Montfort, so I'm going home to celebrate in Montfort with all the Livingstons together back in old New York.
Mr. Adams, leave me alone!
Mr. Jefferson.
Mr. Adams, I'm going home to see my wife.
And we solemnly declare we will preserve our liberties, being of one mind resolved to die free men rather than to live slaves. Thomas Jefferson, the necessity of taking up arms, 1775, magnificent. You write 10 times better than any man in Congress, including me. For a man of only 33 years, you have a happy talent for composition and a remarkable felicity of expression. Now, will you be a patriot or a lover?
A lover.
No!
But I burn, Mr. A.
So do I, Mr. J. You do, John? Dear Mr. Jefferson, I'm only 41. I still have my virility. And I could romp through Cupid's grove with great agility. But life is more than sexual combustibility. Quiet! Now you will write it, Mr. J.
Who will make me Mr. A?
Yes,
How?
but by physical force if necessary. It is your duty, damn it.
Mr. Adams, damn you, Mr. Adams. You're obnoxious and disliked, that cannot be denied. Once again you stand between me and my lovely bride. Oh, Mr. Adams, what do I do?
Quiet! The choice is yours, Mr. Jefferson. Do as you like with it. Are you done? Can I see it? There comes a time in the lives of men when it becomes necessary to advance from that subordination in which they have. This is terrible. Where's the rest of it? You mean to say you haven't finished yet?
I mean to say it hasn't been begun.
Oh, disgusting. Look at him, Franklin, Virginia's most famous lover.
Virginia abstains.
Cheer up, Jefferson. It'll come to you, I promise you. Now get to work. Franklin, tell him to get to work.
He's asleep.
Incredible. Oh, Abigail. I'm very lonely, Abigail.
Are you, John? Then as long as you were sending for wives, why didn't you send for your own?
Don't be unreasonable, Abigail.
I'm unreasonable? You must add that to your list.
List?
The catalog of my faults you included in your last letter.
Those were fondly intended, madam.
That I play at cards badly.
A compliment.
That my posture is crooked.
An endearment.
That I read, write, and think too much.
An irony.
That I'm pigeon-toed.
Well, there you have me, Abby. I'm afraid you are pigeon-toed. Come to Philadelphia, Abigail. Please come.
Thank you, John. I do want to, but you know it's not possible now. The children have the measles.
Yes, so you wrote, Tom, little Abby.
Only now it's Quincy and Charles. And it appears the farm here in Braintree is dying, John. The chicken and the geese have all died, and the apples never survived the late frost. How do you suppose she managed to get away?
Winters are softer in Virginia.
And their women, John?
Good for Virginians, but pale, puny things next to New England women.
Thank you, John.
How goes it with you, Abigail?
Not well, John. Not at all well. I live like a nun in a Christ that so days celebrate, I hate it.
I live like a monk in an abbey. Ditto, ditto. I hate it.
Write to me with sentimental effusion. Let me revel in romantic illusion.
You still smell like vanilla and spring air. It's my favorite lover's pillow, still firm and fair.
What was there, John? Still is
Soon, madam.
Come soon as you can to my Christ day. I've forgotten the feel of your hand.
Madam, we can walk into its grove together.
Is a complete and up-to-date list of the committees of this Congress now sitting, about to sit, or just having sat. A committee formed to investigate a complaint made against the quality of yeast manufactured at Mr. Henry Pendleton's mill, designated as the Yeast Committee. A committee formed to consider the most effective method of dealing with spies, designated as the Spies Committee. a committee formed to think, perhaps to do, but in any case to gather, to meet, to confer, to talk, or perhaps even resolve that each rifle regiment be allowed at least one drum and one fife attached to each company designated as the drum and fife committee. A committee formed to...
Look at it, democracy. What Plato called a charming form of government, full of variety and disorder. I never knew Plato had been to Philadelphia.
McNair, open that damn window.
That I've gone and picked up. That ought to save everyone here a whole lot of time, considering the epidemic of bad disposition that's been going around. They read following. Dear sir, you are without any doubt a rogue, a rascal, a villain, a thief, a scoundrel, and a mean, dirty, stinking, sniveling, sneaking, pimping, pocket-picking, thrice double-damned, no good son of a bitch. And you sign your name. What do you think?
I'll take a dozen right now.
A committee formed to answer all congressional correspondence, designated as the Congressional Correspondence Committee.
Enough socializing, Franklin. There's work to be done.
Good morning, John.
But, good morning. Now let's get to it.
Let's get to what?
Unanimity, of course. Look at that board. 6 days to turn over, a little more than a week.
A committee formed to consider the problem of counterfeit money, designated as the Counterfeit Money Committee.
All right, John, where do we start?
How about Delaware? It's a sad sight to see her on the wrong side after all this time. Any news abroad?
He's back.
Thomas.
A committee formed to study the causes of our military defeat in Canada, designated as the Military Defeat Committee.
How'd you leave Caesar? Is he still alive?
Aye, but the journey to Dover was fearful hard on him. He never said a word that I could tell or meant was suffering.
But you got him safely home.
I did, but I doubt he'll ever set foot out of it again.
That leaves you and Reed split down the middle. Will he come over?
I don't know. He's a stubborn little son.
Then work at him. Keep at him till you wear him down.
John, face facts, will ya? For just Reed standing in our way, it wouldn't be so bad. But look for yourself. Maryland, Pennsylvania, the entire South, it's impossible.
It's impossible if we all stand around complaining about it. So we'll work for McKean, one foot in front of the other.
I believe I can put it a better way. Never put off till tomorrow.
Shut up, Franklin.
What will it do? You know Dickinson, he will never get it. You have him blasted up in jail.
Never mind them. Your job is George Reed. Talk him deaf if you have to, but bring us back Delaware.
There's a simpler way. This will break the tie.
All right, John, who's next?
A committee formed to keep secrets, designated as the Secrets Committee.
Pennsylvania and Maryland. Why don't you try and get your own house in order while I take a crack at old bacon face over there? Look at him stuff himself. Mr. Chase. How about it, Chase? When do you come into your senses?
Please, now. How long you?
Mr. Wilson, it's time to assert yourself. When you were a judge, how in hell did you ever make a decision?
The decisions I made were all based on legality and precedence, but there is no legality here and certainly no precedent.
Because it's a new idea, you club. We're setting our own precedent.
No!
Damn your eyes, Reed. You came to this world screaming no, you're determined to leave it the same way, you little worm.
The Congress is waiting on you, Chase. America's waiting. The entire world is waiting. What's that, kidney?
Leave me alone, Miss Adams. You're wasting your time. I thought you could do this work in front of your face, but you must know it's impossible. You heard General Washington's dispatches. His army has fallen apart.
Washington's exaggerating the situation in order to arouse this torpid Congress into action. Why, as chairman of the War Committee, I can tell you for a fact that the army has never been in better shape. Never have troops been so cheerful. Never have soldiers been more spirited. Never have training and discipline been more spirited. Never. Good God.
Do we have your ears, gentlemen? Mr. Thompson is a dispatch.
From the Commander, Army of the United Colonies in New York, dispatch number 1157. To the Honorable Congress, John Hancock, President. Dear Sir, it is with the utmost despair that I must report to the confusion and disorder that reign in every department. The Continental soldier is as nothing ever seen in this or any other century. He is a misfit, ignorant of hygiene, destructive, disorderly, and totally disrespectful of rank. Only this last is understandable, as there is an incredible reek of stupidity amongst the officers. The situation is most desperate at the New Jersey training ground in New Brunswick, where every able-bodied whore in the colonies has assembled. There are constant reports of drunkenness, desertion, foul language, naked bathing in the Raritan River, and an epidemic of the French disease. I have declared the town off limits to all military personnel, with the exception of officers. I beseech the Congress to dispatch the War Committee to this place in the hope of restoring some of the order and discipline we need to survive. Your obedient, G. Washington.
At that with the press of
Well, Mr. Adams, you're chairman of the War Committee. Do you feel up to the whoring, drinking, deserting in New Brunswick?
There must be some mistake. I have an aunt who lives in New Brunswick.
You must tell her to keep up the good work.
Come, Mr. Adams. You must see that it's hopeless. Let us recall General Washington and disband the Continental Army before we are overwhelmed.
Oh, yes, the English would like that, wouldn't they?
Why not ask them yourself? They ought to be here any minute now.
And when they hang you, Mr. Adams, I trust you'll bring a good word for the rest of us.
Mr. Chase, if you thought we could beat the Redcoats with Maryland, say yay to independence? No, supposing, Chase, would you or wouldn't you?
Very well then. Yes, good.
Then come with me to New Brunswick and see for yourself.
John, are you mad?
You heard what Washington said? It's a shambles up there.
They're pushing you into it, Johnny.
How about it, Chase?
All right then. Maybe we'll be this out of
Mr. President, the War Committee will heed General Washington's request. A party consisting of Mr. Chase, Dr. Franklin, and myself will leave immediately.
Is that satisfactory with you, Dr. Franklin?
Franklin, wake up! We're going to New Brunswick!
Like hell I am, before.
The whoring and the drinking, of course.
Come on, Chase, move all that lard. There's no time to lose. Left, right, left, right, left, right.
Mr. McNair, all this talk of independence has left a certain foulness in the air. My friends and I would appreciate it if you could open some windows.
What about the flies?
The windows, Mr. McNair.
Open the windows, close the windows, sweet Jesus.
Oh, say, you see what I see? Congress sitting here in sweet serenity, like a cheer. The reason's clear for the first time in a year. Adams isn't here. And look, the sun is in the sky, the breeze is going by, and there's not a single fly. I sing Hosanna, Hosanna, Hosanna. we are cool. Come ye cool, consider it set. We'll dance together to the same minuet. To the right, ever to the right, never to the left, forever to the right. Let our creed be never to exceed the regulated speed, no matter what the need.
Come sing Hosanna, Hosanna,
and raise on our banner is keep cool.
to the right, ever to the right, never to the left, forever to the right.
Hands attach, tightly latch, everybody match.
I have a dispatch from the Commander, Army of the United Colonies in New York. Dispatch number 1158 to the Congress, John Hancock, President. Dear Sir, I awoke this morning to find that General Howe has landed 25,000 British regulars and Hessian mercenaries on Staten Island, and that the fleet under the command of his brother, Admiral Lord Howe, controls not only the Hudson and East River, but New York Harbor, which now looks like all of London afloat. I can no longer in good conscience withhold from the Congress my certainty that the British military object at this time is Philadelphia. Happy should I be if I could say the means preventing them, but at present I confess I do not. Oh, how I wish I had never seen the Continental Army. I would have done better to retire to the back country and live in a wigwam. Your obedient, G. Washington.
What we do rationally. We never go half we.
Why begin if we know we cannot win? And if we cannot win, why bother to begin? We say this game's not of our choosing. Why should we risk losing? We fool men.
Mr. Hancock, you're a man of property, one of us. Why don't you join us in a minuet? Why do you persist in dancing with Mr. Adams? Good Lord, sir, you don't even like him.
That is true. He annoys me quite a lot, but still I'd rather try to Mr. Adams than a lot.
But why? For personal glory? For a place in history? Be careful, sir. History will brand him and his followers as traitors.
Traitors to what, Mr. Dickinson? The British crown or the British half-crown? Fortunately for us, there are not enough men of property in America to dictate policy.
Perhaps not, but don't forget that most men with nothing would rather protect the possibility of becoming rich than face the reality of being poor. And that is why they will follow us to the right, ever to the right, never to the left, forever to the right. Where there's gold, our market that will hold, the nation that is old, reluctant to be bold. I sing Hosanna, Hosanna, in a safe and lucid manner. We are cool, we're cool, conservative men, whose lives will never be seen again. With our land, cash in hand, self-command, future plans, and we'll hold to our goal. Tradition and gold, reluctant to be bold. We say this game's not of our choosing. Why should we risk losing? We
Sweet Jesus. How'd you like to try and borrow a doll from one of them? One other room, General?
General, what are you looking for?
Yeah, well, what's the army now? Sit down, gentlemen. Chair rules, it's hot to work. What's it like out there, General?
You probably know more than me.
Sitting in here? Sweet Jesus, this is the last place to find out what's going on.
I'm able to join up.
What are you talking about? You're in Congress, you don't have to join up.
What's that got to do with anything?
You don't see them rushing off to get killed now, do you? But they sure are good ones. Send in others, I'll tell you that.
Who sits here?
Caesar Rodney of Delaware. Where are you from, General?
Watertown,
Where's that?
Massachusetts.
Well, you belong down there, but be careful. Something about that chair makes a man awful noisy.
You seen any lightning?
Sure did. I'd seen my two best friends get shot dead on the very same day. Right off the village green it was, too. And when they didn't come home for supper, their mamas went down the hill looking for them. Miss Lowell and Miss Pickett. Miss Lowell, she found Timothy right off, but Miss Pickett, well, she went near half the night looking for William because he crawled up the green and died.
Mama, hey mama, come looking for me. I'm here in the meadow by the red maple tree. Mama, hey mama, look sharp, here I be. Hey, hey, mama, look sharp. Them soldiers, they fired. Oh my, did we run? And then we turned round and the battle begun. Then we turned under, oh my, am I done? Hey, hey, mama, look sharp. My eyes are wide open, my face to the sky. Is that you I'm hearing in the tall grass nearby? Mama, come find me before I do die. Hey, hey, mama, look sharp. Close your eyes, my Billy. Eyes that cannot see, and I'll carry you, my Billy, beneath that maple tree. And will you whisper to me? Hey, hey, mama, look sharp.
Philadelphia, June 20th, 1776. My dear friend Filippo, the Continental Congress has just adjourned today's session. I feel that we are closer than ever to independence. Mr. Adams and Mr. Franklin have asked me to draft a Declaration of America's independence that will be deliberated in the coming weeks. But it has proven to be a Herculean task. My draft is good, but not yet great. It must be as grand as our moment in history, which is why I come to you, my dear friend Filippo. I feel as though you understand this moment, and I seek the counsel of an equal mind and passionate soul. Tell me, would you press for any idea into this foundational document? I welcome your kind reply, and in your reply, I welcome news of our Virginia Wine Company. How are our vineyards? Your faithful servant and friend, Thomas Jefferson.
Colle, Virginia, June 27, 1776. Il mio carissimo amico Thomas. I write my reply to your letter by the window of Colle, with Monticello in sight, overlooking the beautiful 2,000 acres you gave me to cultivate the vinifera wines that I brought with me from Italy. Our Virginia Wine Company will soon be making the finest Italian wines in America. And with your latest investment, dear Thomas, you are now the largest shareholder. I read with great joy that the colonies are close to declaring independence. I believe that God has ordained America to be free and independent, and that America will become a beacon for all freedom-loving peoples for centuries to come. In your letter, you ask, what idea would I press into your declaration? Yes. But, my dear friend Thomas, you need not ask me. You and I have spoken about freedom and liberty for years now. Remember my letter of last year, published in the Virginia Gazette? You yourself translated it from my Italian to your English. They may have been my words and your translation, but the idea, Thomas, is inscribed by God in every man's heart. These are the words I wrote, Thomas. All men are by nature equally free and independent. This equality is necessary to establish a free government. Each individual must be equal to the other in natural law and natural rights. A true republican government of people cannot exist unless in their natural rights. This is the seed, Thomas, that I would plant in this new nation by means of your document. Cultivate it if you wish, and I assure you, Mr. Adams and Mr. Franklin and each one of the delegates will approve your declaration. May the light of America shine forever. Your faithful servant and dear friend, Filippo Mazzei.
The Secretary will now read the report of the Declaration Committee. Mr. Thompson.
A declaration by the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress assembled. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bonds which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impelled them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights.
Jefferson, we're back and we've got Maryland's. Or we will as soon as Chase gets through telling the Maryland Assembly what we saw in New Brunswick.
He's in Annapolis right now, describing a ragtag group of provincial militiamen who couldn't train together, drill together, or march together. But when a flock of ducks flew by and they saw their first real dinner in 3 full days, sweet Jesus, could they shoot together? It was a slaughter.
They are reading the Declaration.
What part are they at?
To render the military power independent of and superior to the civil power.
Independent of and superior to...
There's nothing to fear. It's a masterpiece. I'm to be congratulated.
You?
For making him write it.
Ah, yes, of course.
It's a masterpiece, I say. They will cheer every word, every letter.
I wish I felt that way.
I believe I can put it better. Now then, attend, as friend to friend, our Declaration Committee. For us I see immortality in Philadelphia City. A farmer, a lawyer, and a sage, a big gouty in the leg. You know it's quite bizarre to think that here we are, playing midwives to an egg.
Egg. What egg?
America, the birth of a new nation.
If only we could be sure what kind of bird it's going to be.
Yes, Tom has a point. What sort of bird should we choose as the symbol of our new America?
The eagle.
The dove.
The turkey.
The eagle.
The dove.
The eagle.
The eagle.
The turkey.
The eagle is a majestic bird.
The eagle is a scavenger, a thief, a coward, and the symbol of more than 10 centuries of European mischief.
And the turkey?
A truly noble bird, a source of sustenance to our settlers, and an incredibly brave fellow who would not hesitate from attacking an entire regiment of Englishmen single-handedly. Therefore, the national bird of America is going to be
the eagle.
The eagle.
The eagle. We're waiting for the chirp. We're waiting for the chirp. Chirp of an eaglet being born. Waiting for the chirp. Chirp. Chirp on this human Monday morning in this Congressional incubator. God knows the temperature's hot enough to hatch a stone, let alone an egg. We're waiting for the stretch, stretch, stretch of the tiny little fella, waiting for the egg to hatch on this human Monday morning in this Congressional incubator. God knows the temperature's hot enough to hatch a stone.
Will it hatch an egg?
This declaration would be a triumph, I tell you. A triumph. If I was sure of anything, I'm sure of that. A triumph. And if it isn't, we've still got 4 days to think of something else. The eagle's gonna crack the shell of the egg that England laid. Yes, sir, we can tell on this human Monday morning in this Congressional incubator. And just as Tom here is written, though the shell may belong to Great Britain, though inside belongs to us. And just as Tom here is written, we say to hell with Great Britain, the eagle inside belongs to us.
establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
Very well. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. The Congress has heard the report of the Declaration Committee. Are there any who wish to offer amendments, deletions, or alterations to the Declaration?
Mr. President, right here, Mr. President.
Gentlemen, please. McNair, open the damn window. Colonel McKean, I started in first.
Mr. Jefferson, Tom, it's about a gatekeeper, but somewhere Eddie mentioned Scottish and foreign mercenaries sent to destroy us. Scottish, Tom?
It's in reference to the Highland Regiment that went against us at Boston.
It was more likely Germans wearing kilts to disguise their being there. I ask you to remove the word and avoid giving offense to a good people.
Mr. Jefferson?
The Reverend Witherspoon.
Mr. Jefferson, nowhere do you mention the supreme being. Certainly this was an oversight. For how can we hope to achieve the victory without his help? Therefore, I must humbly suggest the following addition to your final sentence. With a firm alliance on the protection of divine providence.
Mr. Hughes.
Mr. Jefferson, nowhere do you mention deep sea fishing rights. We in North Carolina depend on fishing.
Good God, fishing rights. How long is this piddly going to go on? We have been here for 3 full days and endured by my count 85 separate changes with close to the removal of 400 words. Will you whip and beat it till you break its spirits? I tell you, this document is a masterful expression of the American mind.
If there are no more changes, then I can assume that the report of the Declaration Committee
Just
has
a moment, Mr. President.
We'll go.
I wonder if we could prevail upon Mr. Thompson to read a small passage of Mr. Jefferson's declaration, the one beginning, he has waged a cruel war.
Mr. Thompson?
He has affected, he has combined, he has abdicated, he has plundered, he has consumed.
He has waged cruel war. Here it is.
He has waged cruel war against human nature itself in the persons of distant people who never offended him, captivating and carrying them into slavery in another hemisphere. Determined to keep open a market where men should be bought and sold, he has prostituted...
That will suffice, Mr. Thompson, I thank you. Mr. Jefferson, I can't quite make out what it is you're talking about.
Slavery, Mr. Rutledge?
You are referring to us as slaves of the king.
No, sir. I'm referring to our slaves. Black slaves.
Black slaves. Why didn't you say so, sir? Did you try to hide your meaning?
No, sir.
Just another literary license, then.
If you like.
I don't like at all, Mr. Jefferson. To us in South Carolina, black slavery is our peculiar institution and a cherished way of life.
Nevertheless, it must be abolished, I say. Nothing is more certainly written in the Book of Fate than that this people shall be free.
I am not concerned with the Book of Fate right now, sir. I'm more concerned with what's written in that little paper there.
That little paper deals with freedom for Americans.
Oh, really? Mr. Adams is now calling our black slaves Americans. Are they now?
They're people and they're here. If there was any other requirement, I've never heard of it.
They are here, yes, sir. But they are not people. They are property.
No, sir! They are people, being treated as property. By God, I tell you that the rights of human nature are deeply offended by this infamous practice.
Then see to your own wounds, for you are a practitioner, are you not, sir?
I have already resolved to release my slaves.
Well, I'm sorry. Will you also resolve the ruination of your personal economy?
Economy, always economy. This is more than a filthy purse string, Rutledge. This is an offense against man and God.
Here's a bill, Mr. Hopkins. What is that I smell? Floating down from the north. That be the aroma of hypocrisy? For who holds the other end of that filthy purse string, Mr. Adams? Our noble brethren, feeling tender toward our slaves. They don't keep slaves. Oh, no. But they are willing to be considerable carriers of slaves to us. They are willing for the shilling. Or haven't you heard, Mr. Adams? Click, molasses to rum, to slaves. Oh, what a beautiful waltz. You dance with us, we dance with you, in molasses and rum and slaves.
John, unfortunately, the issue here is independence, not slavery. These men, no matter how much we disagree with them, are not ridiculously pushed around. They're proud, accomplished men, cream of their colonies. And no matter how much we disagree with them, they and the people they represent will be part of the new country we want to create. Either start learning how to live with them or just go home. What's happened to me? John Adams, the great John Adams, the wise man of the East. What have I come to? My law practice down the pipe, my farm mortgage to the hilt. At a stage of life when other men prosper, I am reduced to living in Philadelphia. Philadelphia! Oh, Abigail, what am I going to do?
John,
I need your help.
you don't usually ask my advice.
Yes, well, there doesn't seem to be anyone else right now.
What is it?
The entire South has walked out of this Congress. George Washington is on the verge of total annihilation. The precious cause for which I have labored these several years has come to nothing, and it seems I'm obnoxious and disliked.
Nonsense, John.
I'm unwilling to face reality.
Foolishness, John.
But I'm pig-headed.
Well, there you have me. I'm afraid you are quite pig-headed.
Has it been any kind of life for you, Abigail?
I never asked for more. After all, I am Mrs. John Adams. It's quite a lot for one lifetime.
Is it, Abby?
Think of it. To be married to the man who's first in line to be hanged.
Yes, the agitator. Oh, Abigail, you must tell me what it is. I've always been dissatisfied, I know that, but lately I find that I reek of discontentment. It fills my throat and floods my brain, and sometimes I feel there's no longer a dream, but only a discontentment.
Oh, John, can you really know so little about yourself? Or think so little of me that I'd marry the man that you described? Do you remember what you said to me? Well, I haven't. Commitment, Abby, commitment. There are two creatures of value on the face of this earth. Those with the commitment and those who require the commitment of others. Do you remember, John?
I remember.
Mr. Adams,
What?
these are for you.
Just a moment, what are they? What's in them? Who sent them?
The men said the common ladies of the world, and the sisterhood of the truth in God. And the Friday evening Baptist showing circle, and the holy Christian sisters of St.
I'm still from Massachusetts, John. You know where I stand. I'll do whatever you say.
No, you're the president of Congress. You're a fair man, Hancock. Stay that way. Mr. Thompson, out of curiosity, do you stand with Mr. Dickinson, or do you stand with me?
I stand with the general. Lately, I've had the oddest feeling that he's been writing to me. I have been in expectation of receiving a reply on the subject of my last 15 dispatches. Is anybody there? Does anybody care? Is anybody there? You're humble and obedient.
Are you hungry, John?
No, I think I'll stay.
Good night, then.
Is anybody there? Does anybody care? Does anybody see what I see? They want me to quit. They say, John, give up the fight. But still to England I say, good night forever, good night. For I have crossed the Rubicon. Let the bridge be burned behind me. Come what may, come what may.
I'll say the dead
Hell we have to pay in fiery purgatory. Through all the gloom, I can see rays of ravishing light and glory. Is anybody there? Does anybody care? Does anybody see what I see? I see fireworks. I see the pageants and pomp and parade. I hear the bells ringing out. I hear the cannons roar. I see Americans, all Americans free How quiet the chamber is. How silent the chamber is. Is anybody there? Does anybody care? Does anybody see what I see?
Yes, Mr. Adams, I do.
Dr. Hall, I didn't know anyone was
I'm
there.
sorry if I startled you. I couldn't sleep. In trying to resolve my dilemma, I remembered something I once read. That a representative owes the people, not only in his industry, but in his judgment. He betrays them if he sacrifices it to their own opinions. Written by a member of the British Parliament, Edmund Burke.
Very well. The Congress will now vote on Virginia's resolution on independence. Thank you for coming, Caesar, and God bless you, sir. Call the roll, Mr. Thompson. And gentlemen, I remind you that a single nay vote will defeat the motion. Mr. Thompson.
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire says yay.
New Hampshire says yay. Massachusetts.
Massachusetts says yay.
Massachusetts says yay. Rhode Island.
Rhode Island says yay.
Rhode Island says yay. Connecticut.
Connecticut says yay.
Connecticut says yay. New York.
New York abstains courteously.
New York abstains
Courteously.
New Jersey.
New Jersey says yay.
New Jersey says yay. Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania.
We're not ready yet. Come back to us later.
Pennsylvania passes. Delaware.
Delaware, by majority vote,
Aye.
says yay.
Well done, sir.
Delaware says yay. Maryland.
Maryland says yay.
Maryland says yay. Virginia.
Virginia says yay.
Virginia says yay. North Carolina.
North Carolina yields to South Carolina.
South Carolina.
Well, Mr. Adams.
Well, Mr. Rutledge,
Mr. Adams, you must believe that I will do what I promised to do.
what do you want, Rutledge?
Remove the offending passage from your declaration.
If we did that, we'd be guilty of what we ourselves are fighting against.
Nevertheless, remove it, or South Carolina will bury now and forever your dreams of independence.
John, I beg you to consider what you're doing.
Franklin, if we give up on this issue, posterity will never forgive us.
Well, that's probably true, but we won't hear a thing, John. We'll be long gone. And what will posterity think we were? Demigods? We're men. No more, no less. Trying to get a nation started against greater odds than a more generous God would allow. John, first things first. Independence. America. Because if we don't secure that first, what difference will the rest make?
Mr. Jefferson, say something.
What is there left to say?
Oh man, you're the one who wrote it.
Yes, Mr. Adams, I wrote all of it.
There it is, Rutledge. You have your slavery a little good mate, do you? Now vote, damn you.
Mr. President, fair colony of South Carolina says yay.
South Carolina says yay. North Carolina
says yay.
North Carolina says yay. Georgia.
Georgia says yay.
Georgia says yay. Pennsylvania, second call.
Mr. President, Pennsylvania regrets all of the inconvenience that such men as Adams, Franklin, and Jefferson were put to just now. They might have kept their document intact for all the difference it will make. Mr. President, Pennsylvania says...
Just a moment. I asked that the delegation be polled.
Dr. Franklin, don't be absurd.
A poll, Mr. President. It's a fair request.
Yes, it is. Poll the delegation, Mr. Thompson.
Dr. Benjamin Franklin.
Yay.
Mr. John Dickinson.
Nay.
Mr. James Wilson. Judge Wilson.
There it is, Mr. Wilson. The An entirely new nation, Mr. Wilson, waiting to be born or to die in birth, all on your say-so. Which will it be, Mr. Wilson? Every mapmaker in the world is waiting for your decision.
Come now, James. Nothing has changed. We mustn't let Dr. Franklin create one of his confusions. The question is clear.
Most questions are clear when someone else has to answer them.
It would be a shame if a man who handed down hundreds of wise decisions from the bench be remembered for the one unwise decision he made in Congress.
James, you're keeping everybody waiting. The secretary has called for your vote.
Please, don't push me, John. I know what you want me to do. But Mr. Adams is correct about one thing. I'm the one who will be remembered for it.
What do you mean?
I'm different from you, John. I'm different from most of the men here. I don't want to be remembered. I just don't want responsibility.
Yes, well, whether you want it or not, there's no way of avoiding it.
Not necessarily. If I vote with them, I'll just be one among dozens. No one will ever remember the name of James Wilson. But if I vote with you, I'll be the man who prevented American independence. I'm sorry, John. I just didn't bargain for that.
And is that how new nations are formed? By a non-entity trying to preserve the anonymity he so richly deserves?
New nations are formed like bastard children, Mr. Dickinson. Half compromised and half improvised. Our side has provided the compromise, and Judge Wilson is supplying the rest.
James!
I'm sorry, John. My vote is yea.
Pennsylvania says yea. The count being 12 to none, with one abstention, the resolution on independence is adopted.
It's done! It's done!
Mr. Thompson, is the declaration ready to be signed?
It is.
Then I suggest we do so. And the chair further proposes that for our mutual protection and security, that no man be allowed to sit in this Congress without attaching his name to it.
I'm sorry, Mr. President. I cannot, in good conscience, sign such a document. I will never stop hoping for our eventual reconciliation with England. But, because in my own way, I regard America no less than does Mr. Adams. I will join the army and fight in her defense, even though I believe that fight to be hopeless. Goodbye, gentlemen.
Gentlemen of Congress, I say ye John Dickinson.
Gentlemen, are there any objections to the declaration being approved as it now stands?
I have one, Mr. President.
You, Mr. Adams.
Yes, Mr. Jefferson, it just so happens the word is unalienable, not inalienable.
I'm sorry, inalienable is correct.
Mr. Jefferson, I am a graduate of Harvard.
And I, Mr. Jefferson, am a graduate of William and Mary.
Gentlemen, please. Mr. Jefferson, will you yield to Mr. Adams' request?
No, sir, I will not.
Very well, I'll remove it.
Good for you, John.
I'll speak to the printer about it later.
Very well, gentlemen. We are about to brave the storm on a skiff made of paper, and how it will end, God only knows.
That's a pretty long signature, Johnny.
So fat George in London can read it without his glasses. All right, gentlemen, step right up. Don't miss your chance to commit treason.
Hancock's right. This paper is our passport to the gallows. But there's no backing out now. Because if we don't hang together, we will most certainly hang separately.
At least in my case, hanging won't be so bad. One snap, and it's over. Look at Reed over there. He'll be dancing the jig long after I'm gone.
Gentlemen, forgive me if I don't join on the merriment, but if we're arrested now, my name is still the only one on the damn thing.
From the Commander, Army of the United States Colonies, Army of the United States of New York, dispatch number 1209 to the Honorable Congress, John Hancock, President. Dear sir, I can now report with some certainty that the eve of battle in New York is near at hand. Toward this end, I have ordered the evacuation of Manhattan and directed our defenses to take up stronger positions on the Brooklyn Heights. At the present time, my forces consist entirely of Hazlitt's Delaware militia and Smallwood's Marylanders, a total of 5,000 troops to stand against the 25,000 of the enemy. And I begin to notice that many of them are lads, under 15, and old men, none of whom could truly be called soldiers. One personal note to Mr. Morris of New York, I must regretfully report that his estates have been totally destroyed, but that I have taken the liberty of transporting Mrs. Morris in aid of the children to Connecticut to safety. The 4 older boys are now enlisted in the Continental Army. As I write these words, the enemy is plainly in sight, beyond the moon. How it will end, only Providence can direct. But dear God, what brave men. I shall lose before this business ends. Your obedient, G. Washington.
Very well, gentlemen. McNair, go ring the bell.
Mr. President.
Mr. Morris.
The heck with New York. I'll sign the document anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Stephen, sit down.
Every minute, please. Sign that document.
Very well. Mr. Thompson.
New Hampshire, Mr. Josiah Bartlett. Massachusetts, Mr. John Adams. Rhode Island, Mr. Stephen Hopkins. Connecticut, Mr. Roger Sherman. New York, Mr. Lewis Morris. New Jersey, the Reverend Jonathan Witherspoon. Pennsylvania, Dr. Benjamin Franklin. Delaware, Mr. Caesar Rodney. Maryland, Mr. Samuel Chase. Virginia, Mr. Thomas Hughes. South Carolina, Mr. Edward Rutledge. Georgia, Dr. Lyman Hall.
doing, guys?
Theodore, what's your character name?
My name is Caesar Rodney.
I'm Colonel McCain, and this is
What's your name?
Colonel McCain Marcus.
My Snapchat.
Stop it.
My Snapchat, all lowercase. Theo is the best. The thug is the 3 at the end. That's mixed in with E.
Yo, Brendo.
Are you having a good hair day or a bad hair day?
Really bad.
Really bad. It's been bad every day since I've had this costume.
It's not doing what it's supposed to do.
Never has. Probably never will.
Sexual. 5 and 6, right?
I'm sorry.
Very nice.
So hard. Do your mister. I think it says something.
So as soon as we check Mr.
Mr. Brittle. Try it for Mr.
Mr. Adams, damn you, Mr. Adams. Your obnoxious and dislike that cannot be denied.
Look at me.
Once again you stand between me and my lovely bride.
Lovely bride.
Oh, Mr. Adams, you are driving me to